Hello everybody, here we are today and we're going to be talking about whether or not Nikita Kucherov's big start to the year is going to end in some personal hardware for him. So before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So Kucherov is a player that's already been able to carve out quite a name for himself in the National Hockey League. He has been able to play in the league for 10 years already, believe it or not, and is a two-time Stanley Cup champion. On top of that, he has been able to average over a point per game in his career with 773 points in 671 games played. So a player that will likely hit the 1,000-point mark in his career, and on top of that, has been able to just really keep things going this season. In fact, right now he is currently on pace for a really big year. He is somebody that's already been able to do that in his career. He's had 300 plus point seasons, but this year looks especially promising for starters. He has 44 points in 27 games played. That leads the entire NHL. As for the categories of goals and assists, he is first in the NHL for goals. So you're looking at him possibly winning the Rockets, which would be the first time that he's been able to do so. And then he is a guy that, with his assist total, 27 assists, which is again tied for first in the NHL with guys like Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes. Cale is a guy that's already won a Norris, and Hughes is a guy that's really having a very, very good year for the Vancouver Canucks. Already a big name. Kucherov is already a big name, I should say, too, as well. But things look really, really promising for him as he is on pace for maybe his career best season. So with him putting up big numbers, does that necessarily mean, oh, we're going to see Kucherov end up taking home awards? In my opinion, yes. And he's been a player that's already been able to take home the Hart, the Art Ross, and the Ted Lindsay. It was called the Pearson before this, but this was all during the 2018-19 season where he ended up bringing all three of those awards home, the trophies, accolades, if you want to call them. That was a big year for him, 128 points, and that was the Tampa Bay team that didn't end up making it out of the first round, but was looking to be a historically great team, still a historically great team in the regular season, and Kucherov clearly a part of that, which is just continuing to look great for the Bolts to be able to have him on their team. And I would say that this year is kind of resembling the 2018-19 season where you are going to see Kucherov put up big stats. He's on pace to actually shatter, and I say shatter, but break his point total from the 2018-19 season. He had 128 points then. He's on pace for 134 points now and is well on his way to shattering his previous shots total in a season. It was 279, and he is currently on his way to hitting 396, which is actually first in the NHL in this category. He said he wanted to be like Ovi. Ovi, obviously a guy that's been able to lead the league in shots more than one time and is somebody that's been able to score a lot of goals. Not to say that Kucherov hasn't. I think this is one of the awards that he could win. I'm not saying he will win. Kuch has been a player that has been able to score goals in a stretch. In fact, from the 2016-17 season through the 2018-19 season, he ended up having 120 goals in that span, so a 40-goal average. It was pretty standard. It was like 40 goals, 39 goals, 41 goals. So it was basically, again, you're going to get 40 goals out of him, and that was going to be a good deal this year with him taking a lot more shots. He's on pace for about 55 goals, so his first 50-plus goal season in his career with him taking a lot of shots. It looks good. So right there you're seeing one thing that he could get that he's never had before, as he very well could lead the NHL. It's tough to say because some of these other guys could just go off for a tear. And there's some things that I do think are definitely within striking distance as well. The Art Ross is one of those, and I would say that for him it's going to be tough because you have some guys that ended up having some injuries that kind of held him back for a minute, so that's a good thing for Kucherov. Whether he wants him to get hurt or not, I'm assuming not. But having a guy like Jack Hughes, who is off to a really good start to the year and got hurt, having a guy like Connor McDavid that was out for a little stretch there, is not something that's going to hurt you in terms of getting awards. And in the sense now you're having, especially like McDavid, who just had a 5-point night not too long ago, catch up and be right there for them. For the Oilers, as they're starting to surge, he has something like 31 points in like 24 games played or something like that. You know that McDavid's probably going to be there in the thick of it, but I think the real conversation becomes whether or not he could win the Hart or Ted Lindsay. And personally, I gotta say that I think it'll be the Hart. If he was not gonna get one of the two, that would be a little bit easier to get. So I do think I should kind of reiterate that I think he'll win the Hart, whereas Ted Lindsay, I believe, is the most outstanding player. I don't know why I'm saying that, because it is. But he is definitely the most valuable player for Tampa Bay in terms of offense right now, at least what it looks like. And you have to imagine what the voters will see here. A guy that's gonna be putting up big numbers, career high numbers, and possibly lead the categories of like goals and points and stuff like that. Those are all things people are going to like. Now, will he be the most outstanding player in the NHL this year? I couldn't really tell you, but I think for Tampa Bay, especially looking at him, he is a huge driving force of whether or not they're going to be able to have a successful year. And I do think, unfortunately, for Kucherov, whether or not Tampa Bay has success could be a factor in whether or not he gets some hardware. The reality is, when you have a big year, if it's on a team that's not in the playoffs, that could factor in. It's not supposed to factor in, but you don't really want to vote for a guy, let's just say, like Giancarlo Stanton. I know a little bit about baseball. I know that when he was on the Marlins, he won the MVP, but the Marlins were like way off the mark of making the playoffs. Kind of the same situation. If the Bolts ended up missing the playoffs, you wouldn't want to have a lot of awards go to a guy that didn't get to see postseason hockey. Do I agree with it necessarily? No, I don't, because I do think that there can be people that are so good that they deserve some awards, but it's just the situation right now. Tampa Bay is not currently in a playoff spot. I keep feeling like eventually they will be. I know Vasilevsky had a little bit of struggles early on. There's probably some underlying things there too. Coming back from a back injury and back surgery as well is a big factor. But Kucherov, even if they're able to make it as the second wildcard team, absolutely will benefit of that. So think back to like Taylor Hall, where he went to the Devils and they were able to get things together. He ended up getting some hardware from that. Kucherov probably again benefits from that and will have a bigger year. Now, I'm not even saying that the New Jersey Devils of that season are anywhere comparable to this Lightning team. The Devils had been stuck in the mud for a bit. They had some young guys that were still developing, whereas Tampa Bay has proven and legitimate stars. Not that long ago, they were making it to the Stanley Cup Final and winning it, or at least making it there. Just kind of one of those deals where I kind of wanted to highlight something that is relatable, where, again, a guy like Cole that was just able for this team to get there in the playoffs. I think they had like 90-some points. I can't remember that year. But it benefited him, and I think in this sense, Kucherov would benefit from something like that. And I know a lot of people will probably point out the fact that Kucherov is a guy that gets a lot of power play time and is able to take advantage of that. That makes sense. But again, a lot of these guys that are able to get these awards are probably going to get a lot of power play time. I think the bigger knock on him would be the fact that he does not play on the PK like at all. He's played a little over a minute. But again, thinking about how Tampa Bay is set up compared to some other teams, they have guys that they would rather see go out there on the PK and, maybe block shots or stuff like that. Having Kucherov go out there, block a shot, break his wrist, whatever the case is, when he's out there on the ice, would kind of be devastating offensively, and I'm sure you'd have the fans just be absolutely livid with you. So yeah, you can go out there and say, well, he's not a guy that goes out there on the PK. That's true. Well, he's a guy that goes out and has a lot of power play points. That is very true as well. But at the end of the day, a lot of these voters are going to be looking at things like goals, assist points, and saying, wow, that looks really attractive to me. And Kucherov right now looks like to be the most attractive option for some of these awards. And again, some of these he could lock up with his team being bad or good. The Rocket, you can win by getting goals. The Art Ross, you can win by getting a bunch of points. You don't necessarily have to be good or bad for those. Well, you have to be good, but your team doesn't. So whether or not Tampa Bay makes it, he very well could still see a very successful season individually when it comes to the NHL awards. But I kind of would like to see Kucherov get to the playoffs, and even if Tampa Bay was an underdog, as wild as that would seem, I would kind of like to see him go on a tear and maybe see him work a little magic, as the Bolt side is relying on him quite a bit. But anyway, that's just a little bit of talk from me about Nikita Kucherov's start to the year, as he is obviously been really good. So let me know what your thoughts are on all this. Do you think that Kucherov will be able to win some awards? Do you think that he will be able to win, things like the Hart, whether or not the Lightning were able to make the playoffs or not? Do you think that he'll end up winning the Rocket, even though he's never been able to score more than, I think, 41 or 42 goals? All that stuff is stuff we can talk about, so leave that down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night, and you go love hockey, alright. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.